Hey, welcome back. In this video, we will discuss about the double underscore init double underscore method in Python classes. So what exactly is this method and why it is very important? So the double underscore init double underscore or the dunder init method is a very special method for Python classes. All classes have a built-in method called double underscore init double underscore, which is always executed when the class is being initiated. This is very important. Okay. The double underscore init double underscore method is used to assign values to object properties or to perform operations that are necessary when the object is being created. Okay. So let's see that in action. First of all, as you can see, we are having this simple class which we have created in the last video. So class person name equals to John. Okay, this is quite simple. We can declare some variable inside of the class itself inside of Python. Now, if I do something like this, so person1 equals to person, all right. And we will do person2 as well is person. Okay, and now we can print the person1 dot name, and once again we can do the same with the person2. Okay, all right. So this is our simple class, and we are just instantiating the class with this one, and currently right now we are accessing the name for each of the person. So person1 dot name, person2 dot name. Now if I just run the program, we are getting John and John for the both of the print statement, which is not good. This name is not dynamic. So how we can make the name dynamic for each and every person? Name should be dynamic, right? So to do that, what we have to do, we have to use the init method. Okay, so now we will define the init method. Def double underscore init double underscore, and inside of the parameters here we have to pass the self first, self. Okay, so this self keyword is very important. By using the self keyword, the class knows what exactly is that particular object which is basically being called. Okay, so here what we can do something like this. So self dot name equals to John. Okay, so what exactly we are saying right now? We are saying whenever this particular person class is instantiated and created an object, that particular object should have the name property, and that name is currently not dynamic, it is static, which is John. Okay, so let's see that in action. Run the program. We are getting once again John and John. Okay, now how we can make this name dynamic? To make this name dynamic, what we have to do, we have to pass our own parameter. Here we can call it name or something like first name or something like that. I will call that name. Okay, and here what I'll do, I will do something like this, equals to name. So what exactly I am saying here? So whenever we are instantiating the person class, the user will provide a name, which is this one, and that particular name should be attached to the object with this particular attribute, which is currently name. It can be something like first name as well, something like that. We can do anything, but the convention is to call it exactly what exactly we are passing it here. So self dot name. Okay, all right. So what exactly we are saying once again, whenever this person class will be instantiated, this person class should provide a name which is here, and that name should be attached to the object with this special attribute called name. Okay, now when we are instantiating this person, we have to provide the name. So here John, okay, and here we can do Jane. And here one thing to point out, we are not providing anything for the self. So basically Python internally sees this argument and it will pass that particular argument to the second one. Basically it will not pass it to the self. Okay, so we are getting the name here. The self is a special parameter which we will discuss in the next video in detail. Okay, all right, so until now we have been doing something like this. So person, whenever the person class is instantiated, we are getting the name, and that name should be attached to that particular object with the name attribute here. Okay, all right. Now if I run the program, we are getting John for the person 1 and we are getting Jane for the person 2. Okay, awesome. So in that way we have made our person class dynamic. And here we can take multiple things as well. So name, we can do age as well. Okay, and here we can do something like self.age equals to age once again. And now if I just run the program, we will get some errors here. Okay, so this is very similar to the normal function call. We are not directly calling this init method here, like we are not calling that inside of the code, but it is being called internally, right? So to fulfill the number of arguments here, we have to pass the age as well. So let's do something like 20, and Jane should be something like, let's do 24. Okay, and here what we can do after this one, person 1 dot age, and here person 2 dot age. Okay, all right. Now if I just run the program, we are getting John 20, Jane 24. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So in that way the init method is quite useful, right? So whenever we want to attach some sort of a dynamic data to our instantiated object, then we use the init method, and most of the time we use the init method for our classes, right? We use the classes for accessing dynamic data. Okay, so this person class is a blueprint, and as you can see, this person 1 is an object, person 2 is an object as well, depending on the blueprint. That blueprint has different data, right? But it has a proper structure. Okay, awesome. So the init method is called automatically every time the class is being used to create a new object. So for the person 1, we are calling the init method. For the person 2, we are calling the init method as well. Okay, so now why we want to use the init method? As you can see, init method is basically used for setting up the dynamic data, and without the init method you would need to set properties manually for each object, and that defeats the purpose of the object-oriented programming altogether, right? So we use the init method for dynamic data. Using the init method makes it easier to create objects with initial values. Okay, all right. And here, as you can see, this function works like a regular function. We can add the default values as well. If I do something like 0 here, okay, we can do that. So if I do something like this, or let's do 18, okay, something like that. And now if I do not pass anything for John, the age for John should be 18. Okay, John 18, Jane 24. We are not getting any sort of errors. Okay, let's do something like 20. And here for John, let's do 22. Okay, if I just do that, now, as you can see, John is 22 years old, Jane is 24 years old. Okay, all right. And here, as you can see, we can get multiple parameters with the init method, and we can get as much parameters as we want. Okay, we can get age, we can get city, and so on and so forth. It is not limited by the parameter numbers. Okay, so you can create as much complex object as you need. Okay, awesome. So this is the init method, or the _init _method for classes in Python.